Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today on an overview of Key2Act. My name is Brandon Mayer with Implementation Specialists, and today we have a special guest from one of our favorite partners, Mac, who will be going over the overview of Key2Act. And before I hand it over to him to review in much more detail on what he's going to be covering today, I just want to let you know that today's webinar is being recorded, so you will get a copy of it, and so please feel free to refer back to it or share amongst others who you think may find value in it. I will also be monitoring the questions panel, so please don't hesitate to put your questions in there, and we will make sure that we get those addressed for you. So with that, Mac, I will hand it right over to you.
All right, Brandon, thank you. And I want to thank Implementation Specialist in particular for hosting us today and for inviting us to this webinar. We really do appreciate it. And when I was planning what were we going to cover today, I wanted to show everything. And showing everything's really not an option. There's just not enough hours in the day nearly. So we narrowed our focus down and really want to focus on three core modules related specifically to service. So today, for the next 25 plus minutes, we're going to look at three different modules. We're going to look at service management built directly into GP. As a matter of fact, I like to say that our service management module and our job cost modules and all of our GP-based modules share the same DNA with GP. So it really isn't just building something and bolting it on. It's a core part of it. And then we're going to focus on schedule, which is our new dispatch and mapping tool that we have out for our customers to use and manage their work orders or their service tickets. And then from there, we're going to focus on MobileTech. And of course, that's our mobility solution. We've been doing MobileTech for many years now. We've been doing mobility for several years. And of course, that runs on your Androids or your smartphone or your tablet or your laptop. And then real quickly at the end, we're going to circle back into service management just to tie up some loose ends. So I like to think of a process kind of in a wheel, if you will. It has a beginning and it has an end, and then you repeat and you do it again and you do it over and over and over. And that's really what our service management, at least how I visualize it, works. We start with the call initiation. Customer calls in, they have a problem. We do some troubleshooting, maybe some questions are asked, and we determine that a technician needs to be dispatched. So we roll the truck, we get them on site, and now we have a technician on location. What can they do? Well, there's a lot of things they can do. They will receive the details. They will complete the work order in the field. They'll add parts, they'll add labor, they'll capture signature. And then lastly, that last part, it goes to the back office. We update everything. We make sure that those sales transaction inventory transactions are entered against the service call, which they have been done in the field, and we bill the customer. And then of course the process starts all over again. So I want to spend a few minutes looking at service management proper. And if you're a job cost user or equipment management user, you're familiar with the layout and the structure. We have our own area page, and it's built right into GP, and it feels like Dynamics GP and it functions like Dynamics GP. As a matter of fact, I could show you some purchase order screens, some payable transaction entry screens that we've ever so slightly modified just to track the information that we need for service management. And so navigating to the service manager, this is really the hub, the focal point of our service management solution. And there's a whole lot going on in this card. And on my right-hand side that we just kind of highlighted there, these are what I call key indicators for this customer. And I say that for this customer, they have a lot going on, but the next customer might be completely different, and they would have a different set of indicators. And some of those indicators at a glance, as a representative of our company, that my fictitious Max Inc. that I'm working here, I know that this customer has a maintenance contract and they have service level agreements. And I also know that they're a little bit slow to pay their bills. They may be just a bit of a credit risk, and we'll talk about more about that in a moment. Finding a customer is very easy. I didn't pause and talk about the lookups that you see, but there are very quickly I can find a customer by a phone number, by a name, by a serial number of a piece of equipment if they don't know their account number. There's many different ways to find those. So it makes it easy to get to the customers that you want to help out or get them set up as a new customer in the system very quickly. Down at the bottom, we have history with this customer. And these are just actually pulling in the 10 most recent service call tickets that we have. We can go further into history and see much greater detail. But down at the bottom of the screen, it makes it easy to see what we've done recently. I also like to point out that our solution, Service Management, is multi-location savvy. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, many of our customers, they're servicing banks, they're servicing, you name it, any number of businesses, and it's not a one-to-one relationship. A bank typically has multiple branches. For servicing a school district, they obviously have multiple schools at different locations. If we're servicing gas stations, well, Circle K has a whole bunch of different locations that we might be servicing throughout the territory. Each of those locations is a unique location in our software associated with the customer at the top level of the hierarchy. Each location may have their own unique taxing rules. I live down here in Texas, and I can tell you that you could almost go across the street and be in a different taxing zone than you would be if you were on the other side of the street. And the tax rates might be different. And so taxing is done at the location, not the customer record. And there's other things that we can do, but I point all that out to say that our solution understands multiple locations and allows you to tie one-to-many locations to a customer record very easily. Now, I mentioned earlier that accurate printing might be a bit of a credit risk. That stop and go light, or the traffic looking symbol that you see there, is actually what we call a customer payment summary inquiry, which is a huge mouthful. It's easier to say stop and go light. If they have a green light, all systems go. They paid their bills on time. They paid their bills in full. This particular customer has a yellow stop and go light. They're a bit of a risk. Maybe they're a slow pay. Maybe they like to string things out a little bit. They're on net 30, but they're going to take, the full 30 days. And a customer with a red stoplight would be a definite credit risk. They don't pay their bills at all. Perhaps some of that money has gone to collections or to write-off. Maybe we want to make a decision at the earlier point in the process of whether we're going to service this customer or whether we're going to tell them we're going to need a check waiting for the technician when he shows up. All of that is really giving you insight and visibility to your customer base before you've made any commitment on rolling out a resource. And as I like to highlight here, they've got a pretty healthy balance. I don't see anything in the 60 to 90-day buckets, but they are a little bit slow pay and haven't written us a check in a while, so they're definitely questionable. This is detailed history. At the top of the screen, there are various filters you can use. You can filter by division, type, technician, and whether I want to see completed or closed calls. Going all the way back, as you see in this example, 12 years. So if you had 12 years of history, you could go back and literally pull up a service call from 12 years ago and see what happened and what the customer was billed. Now, one of the things that we do very well, do many things well in service management, one of those is equipment tracking. We deal with a wide variety of customers. Of course, we have our traditional mechanical and specialty trades in construction, electrical, plumbing, but we also have customers in oil and gas and customers in other very different types of industries. But if they have a focus on equipment, we go to great lengths to track very detailed information about the equipment. When was it installed? Who installed it? When did the warranty expire? Does it have an extended warranty? If this weren't enough, next to the main fields tab there is an additional fields, and it's a field of nothing but user-defined fields, or a card of user-defined fields that you can use to repurpose and track additional information. On the right-hand side in the little red box are just various details that we could go into. Service history. If it is a mechanical contractor and they're working on HVAC type repairs, we also have an optional refrigerant tracking module that we use. Now this is service history by equipment. Again, detailed history, seeing exactly what was done, not just at a location, but with the piece of equipment. Now I'm going to quickly create a new call. Honestly, I click new call and save, and I'm done. Now I like to flesh out some details, so I'll point out a few things. I want to select a call type and division and maybe enter some notes. But it really is very easy, very efficient to create a new service call or service ticket or work order, whatever your particular phrase is. It's very easy to set that up. So now we're moving on to the next phase, and that is a schedule tool. Schedule is new, and it is browser-based. It allows your staff to see details related to service management. We also pull in job cost information. It allows your staff to manage appointments, whether they're scheduled or unscheduled appointments. I like to break the screen down into 3 sections. On the left-hand side are my resources, my technicians. And I can filter. If I know a technician name and I want to focus on them, I can filter. There's some other areas that I can do some filtering, basically service area, team, skill level. So there's a lot of flexibility on looking at just the team or the individuals that you want to focus on. Down at the bottom are my unscheduled and unassigned appointments. Now, this new service call that we just created popped up in my unscheduled appointments. I deliberately did not assign it to a technician because I wanted my dispatchers to do it. That's their job. That's what they're trained to do, and they're very skilled at it. And so we'll let them schedule that appointment. And as you can imagine, it's simply drag and drop. I drag it and I drop it up here in our calendar section. This is on the left-hand side. We have our technicians based on these criteria. And across the top, we have our time frame. Now, this is configurable. I can flip-flop that and have the time frame up and down the left-hand side, and horizontally have my technicians. So there's flexibility in how you want to view the data. This is kind of my preference, but it's not everybody's preference. I'm pulling in 2 days worth of data. So I did this screenshot last week. So we're looking at Wednesday and Thursday of last week, but bear with me. It could have been Wednesday and Thursday of this week just as easily. And we see some of the appointments that we have already scheduled. Matter of fact, there's where I drag and I drop that appointment onto the calendar. It's now assigned to Adam Barr. There's hover text associated with it. I can see just by hovering over it, it's an emergency call. As a matter of fact, that red dot is tied to the call type. If it's an emergency call type, it's color coded based on preference and setup at the company level. And I know at a glance that this is an emergency, that's an emergency. We got lots of emergencies out there. Everything's an emergency these days. But we can also access additional information. Our call appointments are contextually sensitive. In other words, if I right-click on a service call, it pulls up this window. If I right-click on a job appointment, it pulls up a different window. It knows, it's intelligent. It knows that I want to see details about the service call. And I can go in and change things if I needed to. If the original call taker set it for a problem type that was incorrect, I can go in and override it. Maybe I want to change the service call type, or maybe I want to record some other information. Not all of these fields can be changed, but the ones with the drop downs that you see can be. So I can definitely go in and fine tune this and make it absolutely perfect. And there are other things that I can do, but we'll focus on those at another time. Now, there also is a component to schedule called the hub, the customer hub. And customer hub pulls in a lot of valuable information about the customer on a separate tab. Now, ideally, I would have two monitors and I would have schedule running on my left-hand monitor, and I would drag the customer hub and drop it on the other monitor and have them running simultaneously. That's the ideal scenario. That's how it's designed. Customer hub is pulling in location, service call detail, equipment contacts, maintenance contracts, and even job details. So if you're a job cost user, I want you to know, number one, that job cost appointments can be scheduled and dispatched and tracked using schedule, but you can also see job information, and it's pretty detailed. Not only can I view information, I didn't take a screenshot, but if I right click on accurate printing, 3 options pop up. Do I want to create a new location for accurate printing? Do I want to create a new service call? Yes, I can create service calls from within schedule and never have to get into Service Manager. Spend all my time in schedule. It's browser based, it's easy to use, it's intuitive. Thirdly, I can create a new customer. It's what we call a ad or a quick ad, and it allows you to use schedule to go in and quickly create a new customer so that we can get them in the system and we can get them a resource dispatched and en route to help them out. Now, there's a third component to schedule, and quickly I want to talk about mapping. We use Google and Bing. If you're interested in route optimization, you'll need to focus on Google, but we do support the Google API and the Bing API. I'm using Google. All of my appointments are represented on the screen by an icon. We're also representing the technician vehicle. Now let me say this, we're not a vehicle locator system. There's some companies out there that do fantastic jobs and they're updating in real time. We know the latitude and longitude of the starting address for your technicians. That's just set up and schedule. And when they arrive at an appointment, like Donald Baker has done, he has changed his status to arrived. We set their location to match the customer location so that Donald Baker overlays that appointment, and we know he's on site. And when he goes to his next appointment, changes his status to arrive, guess what? We're going to move the vehicle to that location. I can right click on these, I can open the appointment, I can make an assignment from within the maps, and that's new with schedule. Route optimization uses Google's logic to determine the optimal route based on traffic conditions, road conditions, you name it. We can optimize these routes and it will calculate, you need to go here first and the second appointment be in this order and so forth and so on. But it really does a great job of optimizing those. Once I click save, it will adjust the calendar screen component of this appropriately to match that. Last thing I want to talk about is communications from within schedule. In Service Manager, on the service call record, there's a field to track an email address. It's in the database, and it's also exposed in schedule. So we know the customer's email address. Perhaps they've opened a new service call via email. We can send them updates. Now, this is an example of advanced communication. It's an optional module. It does the nice, pretty HTML emails. And based on triggers that you set up, it could generate an email automatically when the technician's dispatched, and generate another one when the technician's arrived, and generate a third one when the technician's complete, all based on triggers based on the service call appointment status. That's new. So now I want to move right along. We've not got a lot of time and talk about MobileTech. MobileTech runs on Android, iOS, and Windows. This is the calendar view that your technician would see when they first log into their MobileTech device and sync up. Now, MobileTech operates offline. They're not required to be constantly tethered or connected to a browser or to a hotspot or to a cell tower. They can operate offline, and when they get back into the office or back into the yard or back into range, then they can sync up. So it does operate in a store and forward manner. And it is a native app, so it's not a browser. You go to Google Play, you download MobileTech, install it, set it up, connect to the server, and you're in business. These are details about the equipment for the service call that we dispatched to Adam Barr. This is a call that we created, that we dispatched using schedule, and that Adam Barr is currently working on. And he's reviewing the equipment records in the field. Adam can see when it was last serviced. He can see any meter readings and information about the equipment as well, any notes associated with the equipment as well. So I'm going to fast forward here just in the interest of time. We've created a call. We've dispatched it to the technician. The technician, Adam Barr, has picked this up out in the field using MobileTech. And now we want to complete it in the field. What can we do to streamline this process and to do as much as possible conveniently and easily for the technician? Well, the first thing I like to do is enter notes. I'm a firm believer in documentation. Document. What did we do? What did we repair? What did we replace? Now, I'm a lousy typist. I'll be the first to admit it. We have a tool called snippets. It's this little tool up here. They're pre-configured sentences that you can use or that your technicians can use. They pick them from a list and they build their notes. They're spell checked, grammatically correct. To be honest, this is a pretty short one, but you wouldn't mind this being emailed to the customer, and that's exactly what's going to happen in just a little bit. We're going to email this and a whole bunch more information to the customer. So we want it to be professional. Well, we're adding labor. MobileTech works seamlessly with TimeTrack. If you're familiar with TimeTrack, that is our module that works hand in glove with payroll. We track labor. We track it to job appointments, to jobs, to service calls. We we feed payroll so that the employee gets paid, but we also feed the information so that costs are accounted for, and we bill the customer appropriately. So MobileTech feeds seamlessly right into TimeTrack. I enter it once, and it's in TimeTrack. No back office typing in from a stack of work orders. It's seamless. I enter my labor. It honestly almost does everything for you. It defaults the employee, the appointment information, the cost code, the pay code can be set to default, or it can be set to a very short list so that they only have a few to choose from. And based on the estimated time, it even inputs the time in the hour slot. Now they can override that. I was scheduled for 3 hours and I only worked 2. No problem. We also interface with Dynamics GP's inventory module. As a matter of fact, new to MobileTech 6, we even know the inventory count associated with the vehicle truck. Now, a truck is an inventory site in GP's world, and we know that the technician has these in stock. We can scan a barcode. We activate that high definition camera and scan a barcode and add the part to the work order. Last, we capture a signature. This is my weak attempt at a customer signature, but we capture those. Now we can complete the appointment. Had I missed any steps that you deemed essential, if I didn't enter notes, or maybe I didn't get a signature, we didn't even look at tasking, but let's say I just skipped over task completion, it would not let me complete it until I had done the work that I'm supposed to do. And that's just a management decision on what rules do we want to enforce. I've done well. I've completed everything required. So now I'm going to complete this appointment. MobileTech is going to attempt to sync. If I'm not connected to some type of data source where I can, transmit data, it'll store it and it'll sync it up later. Fortunately for me, I had great connectivity and I was able to update signature. That data was transmitted from MobileTech and parsed into the database and updated the records that we need to update. So let's look at those really quickly. So this is our service call that we completed. We now have it in a complete status. The little advanced document management indicator, which is this little paper clip and note or piece of paper looking icon, tells me that there's documents attached, there's notes attached, and I did indeed create notes from the field. There's cost associated with it. We used parts, we used labor. Now, these aren't posted yet because we want back office to go in and review this, make sure it's accurate, then they'll post it and push it through. With the exception of this is what we would call extended pricing. Automated charges placed on the bill. This was an emergency call. I set up a trigger that says for emergency calls, automatically throw a $25 fee on there. Could be used for any purpose that you choose. It's incredibly flexible. This is a report that was generated by MobileTech automatically when I hit that complete button. This was emailed to the customer. Now I could have pulled their email address out of the contacts in GP, easily added that or typed in their email address, and they get this report. This is an SRS report, so of course, very configurable. And I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but it's just summarizing what was done. There's my notes, tasking, which I did not even touch on, appointment, inventory, and labor. So just to recap, and I know this has been fast and really rushed a bit, but we've looked at service management, identifying customers, seeing details about the customer, creating a new call. We've looked at schedule, dispatching and mapping, and customer hub, looking at how to create a new customer and what we can do in the hub, as well as advanced communication. And then we moved into MobileTech, where we received the service call appointment out in the field, saw a few details, and entered labor, parts usage, captured a signature, and completed all our work. And then we circled back into service management real quick just to tie up the loose ends and make sure that we are going to bill the customer everything that we need to. So that's my presentation today. I want to turn it back over to you, Brandon, and appreciate everybody's time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mac. Fantastic overview of service, schedule, and MobileTech. We do not have any questions in the questions pane, but I'm really not surprised by that because we do have some pretty experienced Key2Act users joining us here today. But if you do have questions and you're anything like me, I'll think of it after the webinar is ended. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'll make sure that we dive a lot deeper into your question and get that addressed. Or if you're interested in seeing something more, we can certainly do that as well. So with that, we'll wrap up today. Thank you so much for joining, and please let us know if you have any questions. Have a great day. Bye.